Frostbite mid-ranged locked in here from Thomas, which wasn't banned.
And it's up against the Draven Ez. Now, historically, this is Draven Ez favored. Just because you have such efficient removal, and they don't really have much to stop the removal outside of Troll Chant.
Yeah, but we do see a Rose and Trapper already in hand. And the 3-drop you want. Riven, who are you? We just need this bearded man summoning us 1 mana 5/5 Yeti into our deck. Oh, but those are 2 Trifarian Assessors unbuffed in the opening hand.
And not a great opener for Thomas, and as you had mentioned, Gems, not going to be super safe against a lot of the removal coming out of Kannan. I mean, we have, you know, the full suite of Ravenous Flux, and we've been tracking this all day. 1 Noxian Guillotine and 1 Scorched Earth, and Guillotine is a card that can get a lot of value against a deck like Frostbite midrange that has no way to heal its units.
Yeah, Spider going in here, pushing 1 damage. Not really what you want to block this 2-1. Harsh Wind's also not the best pickup, but maybe the train gets rolling as soon as this Everose and Trapper gets dropped, because if you get the Yeti next turn, or a few turns after, you are feeling pretty good. You might be able to start drawing something with those, yeah, unbuffed Trifarian Assessors.
Still doesn't feel great at all here.
Yeah, really not what you want to be seeing, and that barely counts as a 5 attack unit, that Trifarian Glory Seeker. Just so easy for Kannan to remove if he sneezes at it.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever gonna get this to either challenge something or get this off for Trifarian Assessor. It's gonna be pretty hard here, but maybe if the 1 mana Yeti, you might be able to get a good Reckoning off, which you don't need right now because the freeze was really clutch on the Draven. Draven won't even be able to hit, so he won't generate another axe, which obviously you want as many axes as possible to discard if you do find yourself some draw, but not going to be able to do that here. Let's see what Kannan does with his 4 mana that he has left.
Yeah, I don't know, it just feels rough, right? I mean, this hand from Thomas is like he might get a Yeti next turn, but then he's got double Assessor that he can't play because he has to commit to the Yeti, and it's just feels really, really bad right now.
Yeah, he's in need of a miracle to come back into this game. I mean, to be honest, in this version, I'm feeling a bit more safe because in the Riven version, you don't even have like the Sejuani to get some favorable trades later on, but here he obviously plays the Sejuani, and if she comes on turn 6 or on turn 7, you might be able to trade in, get some overwhelm damage, which feels great, but yeah, that's a long time away and might not even get you the game in that case.
So I feel like you do have to run out the Glory Seeker here, and we might actually even just see taking that guaranteed 1 draw with the Assessor to open the turn. Could greed it out for the Yeti, but this nerf actually playing in really big on the Assessor here. And Glory Seeker is such a problem for Thomas because it's really the only unit in his deck that's going to die to Mystic Shots and Static Shocks, and even using something like a Troll Chant to protect it just doesn't feel worth it most of the time. And yeah, there's a full value Static Shock on the side of Kannan.
Do we still see Reckoning just coming out? You're not getting any better value this turn anyway, this game anyway.
Yeah, I'd like the Reckoning here, especially because Kannan just used removal on one of your units that would die to the Reckoning. And you could also attack with this 3/3, see what happens.
But then you'd miss out 5 damage being potentially pushed. That was like my only downside.
I think the problem with Reckoning here is that if Kannan does have another development, especially something as insignificant as a House Spider, all of a sudden you're not pushing through any damage. Your Yeti could just die to a Ravenous Flock, and I do think that you can get a little bit more value out of this Reckoning a little bit later on.
Yeah, especially if another Draven hits the board. Oh, there's a half guard. This is a good draw.
I wouldn't be too worried about this if I was Thomas. You know, it is going to still take multiple removal spells to actually kill that Yeti. We have a decent blocker developed in the Hearthguard, and even if we choose to go for no blocks, this is still only 6 damage currently being pushed through by Kannan. Start to get a little worried if there's another Sentry, but honestly, with that Culling Strike in hand, you're going to feel pretty good about this no matter what. And Kannan, oh, a 4 damage Tri-Beam.
It's an early Tri-Beam, but yes, he has played quite a bunch of 3-cost cards. 4 damage, actually super good here. Brings this down into a range where you can just Mystic Shot it. I don't know if that's a good 4-drop. It's an average 4-drop. There are definitely worse 4-drops. I think we've seen the 2-2 Mystifying Magician, for example. But there's obviously the hybrid of the Crocodile. Doesn't get that here, but gets the Mystic Shot that we mentioned.
Yeah, this puts pressure under Thomas, right? He kind of has to potentially throw out this Culling Strike to just mitigate some of this damage. I don't think he wants to be able to take 9 this turn. That's a lot. But then the problem is when you're throwing out a Culling Strike, that's your only Ezreal removal for later on.
Yeah, that does seem like, again, a situation where he is going to eat about 9 damage already on 10 HP. That is super scary because just like this Ezreal Draven list, you don't have any heal in deck. So those 20 HP are the 20 HP you have to work with.
Thank you for the raid, Deech. Everyone who's coming in, we are now just going into our finals between Thomas and Kannan. And this is game 1 as well.
So I think what Thomas is debating here is, you know, I want to Reckoning next turn. That's like my ideal situation. I don't have the mana for the Assessor and the Reckoning, but this is just about as good as a Reckoning's ever going to get, even cleaning up a Tri-beamed unit. You know, do I really have to commit this Culling Strike? Is losing this much life, you know, worth it? And it looks like the answer is going to be yes. I would assume that we're going to open the next turn with a Reckoning then.
Yeah, this hand is just so poor from Thomas. I'm just trying to think, is there really a line here where he can maybe get a great Assessor turn that's more than 1 card?
I think the first one's definitely going to have to just be draw 1, but it's such a large mana commitment to only draw 1.
I mean, you are getting a 4/3 body alongside, so it's actually not the super worst thing in the world, but it doesn't feel great, definitely. And it's not what the job of this card is in the deck, because usually it is to refill your hand once you have a full board with an empty hand, and this time you have a full hand and an empty board, so kind of not the situation you want to be in.
Luckily you have Culling Strike, right? So Culling Strike is fantastic in general. You can remove the Ezreal. It's kind of the only major target outside of, well, I'm trying to think, maybe a Draven, but Draven, you never really want to risk that because there's always an axe in hand.
Yeah, I guess it's a question of how much you are, or rather how afraid you are of something like Ballistic Bot, probably the other juicy target for that Culling Strike.
Ooh, Ash.
I thought you'd never ask.
That's a perfect second culling for another Ezra. I mean, I feel like you're culling striking first, then trying to see if Kannan maybe plays something else, or wait for the attack maybe.
Yeah, because I was seeing that second Ezreal come down. If I was Thomas, I would be very afraid of a second Tri-beam Improbulator.
Could see the Assessor first and then the Culling Strike. Obviously, Kannan would like to level the Ezreal here and push already some damage, but is going to run into the second Culling Strike, probably not expecting that to be in Thomas's hand, but since Thomas has not been playing cards, I think you could have expected that his hand is probably full of spells and maybe units he can't play right now. Oh,
Yeah,
there's the Tri-beam, as you mentioned.
And that's going to exactly kill the Yeti. And Ash is not the blocker that you wanted to have to throw out. And now your Assessor not going to get any value.
Okay.
I think you're now kind of okay, right?
Yeah,
It looks fine.
It's not a very threatening unit in terms of attack, but it is going to be a consistent pain in your neck, while also you don't have a great blocker for this Chump Wump. Your Ash
You have
will still
Assessor.
die to it. And it looks like we're just going to throw out a naked Assessor.
I mean, it's enough, right? All you care about this Assessor is not you're not. So the odds of getting both played are really low with your current hand. So just being able to get one draw is like just throwing away the potential of that one draw. I think is fine.
Yeah, that's nice for Archer. Not the best card. I think you would have hoped for another card that has at least 5 attack. Not your deck is buffed, maybe the third Assessor. Dropping this Ash, I have the feeling it could be immediately removed, which then makes all of this way worse, but you really had to block last turn. Oh, this is Sentry, that's okay. You can get a draw off this Ash. Even though there's probably going to be a Revenant stock going alongside of this.
I feel like a lot of the times when we see Frostbite mid-range, when we see them lose, It's because they didn't find Trifarian Assessor. And I feel like opening to Assessor and only getting one draw between two of them is also just a really good way to lose. Now, it's not really Thomas's fault. Really didn't find a lot of 5-attack units throughout the course of this game and lost a couple of them to Tri-Beam and Populators that were larger than life in their own right, but definitely doesn't feel like he's going to be able to come back in and win this one. It would take a Captain Farron of his own. And he doesn't play Captain Farron, so that's not even on the table.
Yeah, so he's a bit more on the mid-range playing game plan, but it seems this Thermal Beam is gonna almost seal this game. Kannan is actually one off lethal, has the mushrooms obviously in hand.
Yeah, and I think that means Thomas is just going to have to harsh winds on the attack here.
Yeah, an empty harsh winds without like an Ash on the board or without a reckoning that can actually be played just feels so bad.
Yeah, this whole game was a giant brick, and it started with the opening hand, 2 Trifarian Assessors. It's probably one of the worst things that can happen with this deck, but sometimes it does happen, and those Assessors are to be drawn at the right time, and in that case they weren't. It gets to draw another card, gets another half guard, but there's a Farron, and that pretty much seals the game because there is no heal on Thomas's deck. Those 2 Decimates are just gonna decimate this game,
I guess, but yeah, nothing to stop the Decimates.
Yeah, and was just a little bit shy of being able to Reckoning the entire board. Still wouldn't have been enough, only would have pushed through, you know, a little bit of damage, nowhere near enough. And without a Captain Farron of his own, Thomas has no over-the-top damage. It looks like he is going to lose game number 1 here to Kannan. Yeah, just offers up the pass, and Kannan might as well just open with the Decimate, knowing that there is no healing in Thomas's deck. That is going to be game number 1, going over to Kannan.
Very, very quick game number 1 for a Draven deck. Farron 8, usually the game-winning turn for a lot of the matches, which is a bit unfortunate on the side of Thomas that he had in the finals going into this match. He was just bricked with double Assessor, and against the Draven that was just super unfortunate.
Yeah, we have to see what the last remaining deck is from Kannan here, because I don't know, this Ash Sejuani still has a couple of great matchups, and I feel like we could see just a reverse sweep here, especially if he's going up against the Demacia deck. When he's going up against Fiora Shen, did not mind that, and that is usually a matchup that is Ash Sejuani favorite.
Yeah, it's clear to leave that up. I feel like you always do. We don't know what Thomas's other deck is available to him, but I would assume
It's possible we end this with a Shen Fiora mirror.
Yeah, I suspect you might actually be right here.
Yeah, obviously his other deck would be Go Hard. I don't know. I think a lot of Fiora Shen players have been feeling comfortable into Go Hard, but sometimes if you don't find the Nopifies, it can be a bit hard because it is still a deck that can punch a lot of damage. Yeah, that is quite the stark difference to last game. We have the 1, 2, 3. We have the Omen Hawk on 1. Now, do we expect to see the Yeti on 4 is the question.
Oh, it would upset the curve. You don't want to draw. You don't even want to draw the Yeti on 4 because it just takes away from your battling group. Yeti and Calling Strike, pish posh. I don't need it. Okay, maybe I need it. Things are getting a little scary here. That is a lot of potential damage being built up here in the early game by Kannan.
Yeah, the thing is though, Thomas rolled all his bad RNG on the last match. Now he's getting the right sort of curve, and Reckoning is again a really strong potential blowout card here in this match, because most units will be within that threshold on the side of Shen Fiora outside of a riposte. The card that they obviously have to worry about is Deny, obviously, to stop it.
Yeah, but this is definitely a matchup where Kannan is not going to be hanging on to those denies. There are so few deniable cards in this matchup. I think it might just be only Culling Strike and Reckoning, as well as Enchanted Crystal Arrow. So definitely something that you would want to throw away in your mulligan unless you're very scared of the potential of an early Reckoning, which for the most part doesn't feel like the play. It's much better to try and fight for the board, but that timely Culling Strike is actually going to take out that Fiora. So yeah, the attack's not looking great for Kannan on the following turn.
Yeah, I like Thomas actually forsaking the curve there. He didn't go for the 3-drop, he didn't go for the Arrows and Trap on 3, which is usually the best 3-drop you can have, but no, he went for the attack, wanted to bait out the Fiora because he saw his opponent only had 1 spell mana available, because he just played 2 1-drops on turn 2.
I actually like the 4/4 Babbling Björk here, potentially purely on the fact that if you draw like a Avarice and After out here, you set up your curve perfectly for the next turn. Doesn't get that though, gets the Sejuani.
River shape the land and give it life.
River Shaper, that is the card that usually draws your entire deck if you are the Shen Fiora deck, and it's providing a lot of value, but here obviously freeze.
Well, he just draws it
don't
anyway.
deny.
He just draws it anyway, and it's a 6/6.
It always feels so weird because I feel like Frostbite midrange really doesn't run that many spells, but when you play Omen Hawk on 1 and you draw your second unit on turn 5 that still has that Omen Hawk buff, it always feels a little weird.
I mean, we had Babbling Bjerg, I think, draw 1 card, and then the other 2 cards were Harsh Winds, Reckoning. Yeah, it's it is a little bit odd.
This is kind of scary open attack because we don't actually have anything to stop a barrier spell on the River Shaper.
Maybe he's bluffing? This seems like a bluff from Thomas, right?
Yeah, it's a matter of, is Kannan okay trading a... Oh!
He is respecting the bluff, actually.
It's a bluff of what, Troll Chant?
Troll Chant, Brittle Steel, anything like that,
Yeah.
and instead we're just going to get this down. Just really, apparently the Hand of Kannan just doesn't play towards the River Shaper at all. It says, I will just trade this for my spell, push a little bit of damage onto your unit. It's
There's
totally
one
fine. I'll get down my Screeching Dragon.
There's only 1 Brittle Steel, 2 Troll Chants, 1 Flash Freeze in the deck, as a heads up.
Okay. By playing the Shen, he obviously keeps the 4 mana for the deny here, so it's a bit scary for Thomas.
Half guard, right?
Yeah. You could also play Sejuani, which would be great because you could stop the Screeching Dragon from actually taking value trades.
Could also just try to kill the Screeching Dragon on the following turn with that Sejuani. I think Thomas has 3 pretty clear options. You could, just accelerate the plan with the Hearthguard, stop this Screeching Dragon with the Sejuani, go for the Reckoning. I'm really worried about going for that Reckoning play because Kannan getting that draw off of the last turn maybe was even digging for the deny and really had it in the forefront of his mind. Hey, I can't afford to get blown up by the Reckoning here.
But the thing is, if you just pass, you're okay as well, right? Because the Screeching Dragon has to pull the 6/6 and just trade into it.
I see, Boulevard, you're not a
Otherwise you
big
just play
fan of
Reckoning.
the...
Otherwise, you just block Shen and they have to commit maybe like a riposte or something.
Yeah. I see, Boulevard, you're not a big fan of the if they have it play.
I mean, I think that there are spaces that you're going to be able to get to where your opponent just doesn't have deny mana, or you can take better advantage of getting the deny out of their hand on that turn.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it would have been a mistake to play that here. Gets down to Sejuani, gets an Ash now.
Ash is super interesting, but the problem is with Ash in this matchup, you need some sort of protection, right? So you need a freeze effect, or you need Ash plus Harsh Winds, because a Concerted Strike can just be a huge blow up here.
Yeah, in that case, you have a couple of other options. You could obviously go in now, go full attack. As long as you don't have a Fiora, you don't really care if Kannan takes a couple of value trades because you can actually refill your board. Just the Trapper plus the Babbling Bjerg. I feel like you could go all in here.
Yeah, I don't think you're really ever worried about Fiora in this match. I think it's Shen that's more of a problem. Especially if he levels up later on.
And I think that goes to what Boulevard actually mentioned. He mentioned, hey, why don't you just save that Sejuani, play the half guard last turn, so you can actually kill the Shen this turn, or you can try to kill the Shen.
Okay, I actually really like these, sort of how this works out for Thomas. Anytime that I can get that Greenglade Caretaker off of the board while it's still at a very low attack point, I'm going to feel pretty happy about.
Light the signal fires.
Draws a card here, gets another Frozen Century. Okay, probably not the game-winning card here, but I think at this point you might want to find some more freeze. So you can go obviously for the Ash win condition. You have a fully white board. Your opponent only has 11 HP. You freeze as much as possible and just burn them down basically, or rather burst them down.
Yeah, this is
Strength is yours.
Cithria coming down here from Kannan. His list is very... I don't think I've seen that many Cithrias in Shen Fiora.
I think generally we see 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Going for a Swiftwing Lancer.
yeah, I don't know what the new season brings, but Swiftwing Lancer and Zephyr are two cards we've seen a ton of in the seasonal tournament. I don't think there was more than one list that actually played Genevieve, and there were quite a couple of lists that actually played the Swiftwing Lancer. I don't even know, maybe it was the winning list that also played the one-off copy of Judgment. At least in EU.
Duty,
I wish there was a Judgment in this deck. I wish more Shen Fiora players had the balls to put Judgment in their deck in an open deck list tournament. Let me see it. Let me see the original OTK that has led to so many bad reviews on the App Store for Legends of Runeterra. Why is Fiora Judgment a thing?
I mean, you forget that Judgment, even in an open deck list, is fantastic because your opponent then has to potentially just play around it, even if you don't have it in your hand. And even that could just force them to play suboptimally. This is...
Thomas has to make a play here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what does he really... I think...
I mean, I feel like Avaros and Sentry is sort of the way to soft pass.
You can block most of it. Sithri is kind of like whatever, really. It's
it must be done.
Mainly a question of what combat tricks does Kannan have in hand.
It's a good question. I mean, he hasn't revealed much of his hand regarding combat tricks. So far, he hasn't used any. So that's something Thomas has to be scared of. And his attack looks actually great for Kannan right now.
Stand and defend.
I like going for the block under the Shen. It's pretty unlikely to work out, and I really don't think I want to see a Harsh Winds here. If we do see something out of Kannan, I think I'd rather save this for like a Reckoning Harsh Winds, at least attempt. And I really don't hate trading my Hearth card for a card like that, especially since I still have 8 mana to redevelop my board. There is the Riposte. Concerted Strike mana is still available for Kannan. That is something that Thomas is going to have to keep in mind as they go for the developments here, but overall, things not looking too bad. Are going to get the Harsh Winds, though, really valuing the 2 units that we have here in the Sejuani and the Hearthguard.
It'd be also curious to know how close Ash is to leveling up. I'm assuming that's just 2 only for now. We haven't seen anything else.
3 with the Sejuani.
Yeah, 3.
Ooh, this goes through.
Speaking of 3, that Shen is also at 3 out of 4.
Yep, the question is now, do we have the Concerted Strike on Kannan's side? I don't think Thomas is going to be developing his Ash this turn. I mean, it does look juicy, 4 mana still available, but 1 Concerted Strike and you are kind of sad about the whole situation.
Seems fantastic. It's a 7th.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Low committal, threatens the Shen.
You have to pay 5 mana for that in some spaces, but not here.
If I'm not mistaken, the 5 mana card can also block. If that is worth 3 mana, that's the question.
Definitely not. Would you pay 4 mana for a 3/1 that can block and doesn't do anything else? No, you would not. Legion Rearguard, stay in the gutter where you belong.
You could just take the end round, right? The 2 mana is kind of irrelevant. I don't think Sentry is going to matter.
If we were going to play Sentry, I would have liked to have played it before combat, just so that we had an additional threatening blocker, because it is at 3 attack, and ooh, Harsh Winds picked up.
I think we just go Ash now, right? Because if they play Concerted, you just Harsh Winds the 2 units.
Yeah.
And you're in a fantastic spot.
And Ash being at 5, once you get the level up, does mean she's out of the range of even a Riposte onto one of the units that was Frostbitten, so this should be a pretty safe Ash play. One thing that Kannan would, or Thomas rather, would have to keep in mind is this is Brightsteel formation turn.
That's kind of irrelevant if most of them can't block.
You can only take 3 blockers off, and I don't know. It
looks
like you do
have a challenger for the 4.
That's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like your 3 weakest attackers will push through lethal. So yeah, gotta say I like going for the Ash. This is a little intimidating.
Okay, the pass back actually looks kind of scary because you mentioned no Concerted Strike, but maybe
wait,
a couple
right?
of reposts can get some more blockers on your board. I mean, yeah, I think you still go in here. Are you pulling the Shen? which I really like because this means if there are reposts to create blockers, the repost won't be on the Shen because he already blocks the card. I really like this. Okay, this could be the lethal turn. We don't know what Kannan has. Maybe he has nothing. Maybe this is just more minions, more units, Brightsteel formation. I doubt it, but we never know.
There is a decent chance this works out for Thomas.
But there's just so much mana available still on Kannan's side. A couple of posts, and
there's
everything
a lot
can block
of dead
again.
cards in the hand, though, right? I mean, we're kind of put him on deny. We haven't gone for, you know, anything like the Reckoning just yet. There is a possibility that there's a Nopify as well. A lot of combat tricks are no longer available as well.
Yeah, also Spirit's Refuge only healing for 3 wouldn't be enough. He really needs just Riposte and Concerted Strike to stay alive here. I don't even know if that's enough.
Would generate a blocker, right?
So if you have Riposte, Spirit's Refuge obviously would generate a blocker, but that's not enough because look at all the damage that TomasOW is presenting. He really needs a Riposte here because Riposte represents him with 2 more blockers. And then he needs a Concerted Strike. Those are the 2 cards he needs. Okay, there's a Spirit's Refuge. There's 1 more blocker. But the Spirit's Refuge is on the Shen, which is
very far away. This better be a This would have to be a Concerted Strike follow-up.
It seems to be. And that means he stays alive this turn. But it loses 2 units, and overall it doesn't look too bad for Thomas because he's not going to lose his Ash. He's going to have the Arrow, which obviously can get Nopified or denied, but he has a bunch more draw. This is just a single combat.
Still going to be enough.
Still going to be enough, but barely.
He does lose the Shen, which is actually quite big.
Yep. That looks like not the game win on this turn, but it still looked like the game-winning play here from Thomas, I would say.
Yeah, and now if Kannan goes for any kind of development, Thomas has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow Reckoning play available, and with your
doesn't really
down
freeze
2 cards,
anything. Except for it freezes 1 unit right now.
That's fine. You only need to freeze 1.
Yeah, but Kannan doesn't have the greatest of traits. I mean, if he wants to get rid of this Ash, he has to sacrifice a dragon. And yeah, the Sejuani is going to die, but we do have a block here on the Sifra, which is also going to die. And we have a lot of the redevelopment on Thomas's side. You can actually drop 3 units, 2 of them could potentially draw him 2 more cards. I like his chances here.
Yeah, now the Enchanted Crystal Arrow does hit the Screeching Dragon, and honestly, I feel like the information trade is almost worth it. You're not going to be too upset if Kannan nopifies this Crystal Arrow just because they have so few cards in hand. All of them need to be medium to high impact in order to start to beat out what Thomas has, and Sharp Sight gonna keep this alive, but just sets things up even better for this Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, if you're Thomas, you definitely have a read some sort of deny, nopify action right now in Kannan's hand because there was no riposte to keep the city alive. It had to be a Sharp Sight, and they're not really developing any other units unless they have maybe like a Shen they're worried about developing.
And you might be able to just go wide enough around these Screeching Dragons that you're not worried about it.
I mean, this is a 3-2 Roasting Sentry. Do you actually want to drop this Trapper? I mean, 1 mana 5/5 is actually not the best you can draw anymore. At this point, you kind of want Trifarian Assessors actually.
I mean, you can just develop on the next turn. You're not in a hurry against the Shen Fury with 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, and without Captain Farron, you know that there's no large top deck that you're going to have to commit a lot of mana to.
It's only Brightsteel, right? And if they commit Brightsteel, that's a huge committal on the board that you have a couple of potential answers to.
Yeah, the only problem is Brightsteel would obviously still have enough room left for Kannan to be able to play this deny, but he won't be able to deny Crystal Arrow and Reckoning. Yeah, Crystal Arrow is going to be a great card in that case, and you have 2 freezes outside of Crystal Arrow to actually deal with this 6/2s.
And potential another draw for a Yeti as well.
At this play, Buddha Steel, oh my god. Okay, a deny and not a nopify invested actually could tell Thomas a lot. that means that the other cards in Kannan's hand is either another deny or he's gonna get this Reckoning through. And I like his chances. I think he should try. Oh yeah, now he should definitely try. He was probably going to freeze one of those dragons. The other one is going to be frozen by the Brittle Steel, and then he's just going to go for the Reckoning and Lethal afterwards. Oh, freezing Tiana even better, because those dragons don't have any favorable traits, so they are going to die.
You freeze Tiana every time.
Yeah, go in. At this point, it doesn't really matter anymore. You kind of just won with either play. But yeah, that is exactly what you want to see. Your opponent dropping below the mana. Your opponent actually just denying one card that could be notified. It's you're having a blast right now.
Wait, no, you brittle reckon. I mean, reckoning
You lose
removes
3
your own
of your
board.
units if you reckon.
Yeah.
I think you only brittle reckon if Kannan would have attacked, because in that case, you could have frozen the one that would have pulled the half card, for example.
Yeah, and I think now you don't even go for the Reckoning. You would kill your opponent's Tiana, but you would lose so many of your own units that it doesn't feel worth it. I guess the wide strategy is now game plan number 1 for Thomas.
They would fall by
Hearth
my
card's fine.
blade.
It's just a big unit.
Yeah, and there's nothing for this Fiora to try and pick on. Just a
Okay.
path. So
That's the GG mode. I mean, this
Yeah.
looks pretty GG, and we said it at the beginning. This is a pretty Ash Johnny favorite matchup, and Thomas had like pretty much the perfect hand from the beginning. A stark difference to his hand the first game. Also, I looked it up. There is not a single copy of Judgment in the deck, so nothing Thomas had to play around. Takes the second game here and makes this final interesting, makes it an actual best of 3, and we are going into game 3, and we will see what is going to be the remaining deck from Thomas. If it
suspect
is
it's a
the
Shenfiora
Go
mirror.
Hard.
I suspect it's really
Okay.
a Shenfiora mirror.
You don't think that Kannan
Thomas-
just left the Go Hard up? Because he is running a pretty good list against Go Hard. He's not running a single copy of Fleet Feather Tracker. He is running those Sifrias, 3 of them, instead of a single copy of Genevieve. And he is also running, I think, a couple of Nopifies. He's running 2 Nopifies.
Yeah, and I actually, if we do see the Shenfiora to Thomas, he's not running any copies of Nopify, actually.
That is pretty nice, actually. I think, I don't know who's favored here, but if I look at the deck lists, we have one Bright Steel formation on the one side, we have one Bright Steel formation on the other side, so no advantage there. But there's a Tiana on Kannan's side, but not on Thomas's side. And it's interesting that we do actually see, like Gems predicted, the Master Predictor, the Shenfiora Mirror.
Yeah, the Nopifies do make a bit of a difference. I'm just looking through the number of each card.
Yeah, I think the one major difference here is not only is Thomas not running any Nopify, but he's running 3 copies of Fleet Feather Tracker, which doesn't feel like a super impactful card in this matchup.
It can be really good if you're on evens. So if you play on turn 1 and then you have like a Bright Steel Protector, that's kind of about it.
Yeah, not happening here. He does have some early units in his Sifrian hand. He's also, I think, wanting one more copy of Riposte. And he's running a Relentless Pursuit, where his opponent is obviously running the Tiana. And I think in this matchup I favor the Tiana because she can't be denied. But oh, that is one of those mirror match win conditions in the hand of Thomas.
Yeah, it's one of those cards you're super happy to see, right? It's just like, yep, I've got it now. As long as I live up until turn 9.
A lot earlier than you want to see it. A couple of those mid-game pieces that you need to bridge the gap in between now and turn 9, like Shen, Fiora, Screeching Dragon, none of those available for Thomas, who is pretty much going to have to take off until turn 5 or 6 rather. And I really don't mind that pass there, just saying, you know what, I'd rather you just not develop anything this turn. My hand is so weak, and that's where the Shen Fiora mirrors are so interesting. When you have caster vision, there's a lot of sort of bluff passes that are actually just, hey, my hand is hot garbage, please pass back because you're afraid of me.
Yeah, and if you attacked, you just gave them too much of an opportunity to put that Fiora maybe a turn earlier and have more opportunities to play like a Bright Steel Protector over the Fiora instead, whereas now you can't even do that. It has to be like a riposte being committed.
Yeah, I mean, we find ourselves in a situation right now where Thomas actually has the board and has the same amount of spell mana as Kannan, which I think he's really happy about. This kind of signals, ooh, also drawing the Shen, that he is going to get to the turn 9 with the board.
Perfect timing as well because he has the riposte on top of it to protect it. And Shen is like, so the key cards usually in Smash is never Fiora, right? It's rare. Fiora rarely levels. It's just Shen and Brightsteel Protector. You can get the best trades on the board as early as possible and force the other person to commit cards like riposte out of their hand for
This
free.
looks bad for Kannan. Actually, he's gonna get 3 units pushing into his face. 2 of them actually having 3 attack.
Yeah, this is what I mean. You have to force now a riposte for a Shen barrier from a support effect. This is like
That was a Fiora's riposte.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like this is sort of value you get just from having Shen on the board and your opponent not having it. It's just free spells being wasted just to keep their own board alive.
Yeah, and if Kannan goes for a development here, like, say, a Shen, then we could even see a single combat come out just to kill this Fiora. We'd have to trade one of our own units for it, but probably wouldn't feel too bad about that. Instead, it is just going to be this little guy here, Green Glade Collector, going to let us float our full spell mana into the following turn, but things not looking great for Kannan thus far.
Yeah, next turn, if he ever spends his mana, we will see the Sifri already develop. Even if that doesn't happen, I feel like Thomas is just going to develop her on turn 7 alongside enough spell mana to play the riposte. It looks great for him right now. I don't know what Kannan can do to come back. Maybe play his own Shen. There is no concerted strike on Thomas' side, so a Shen combined with a riposte could be his way back.
Yeah, there's also a difference in the number of concerted. So in Kannan's side, he's only running 2, whereas we have a full 3 on Thomas's side. Just gonna throw out. Okay, that doesn't play.
I like this.
I mean, the only answer is no, there's Notify. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this forces spell mana out of your opponent. Spell mana he would like to have, and if you're not planning to play the Sifria next turn, you have now 6 spell mana to work with. 8 mana in total. You have 2 riposts. This looks great for Thomas right now.
Oh, this would have been a beautiful opportunity for a concerted strike, but unfortunately doesn't actually have it. But still going to feel pretty good. When you're playing a Shen Fiora match, you want to count your mana in terms of 4s. Thomas has 2 4s available, and Kannan has 0.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risky attack from Kannan, right? Even if there is a sharp sight.
Yeah, you could actually play the Sifra here. You don't even need to play the riposte right now. Obviously, you have to be wary that your opponent could also play a sharp side. So Thomas has to be a bit more careful.
Oh, it's fine playing Sithria next time because he gets Sithria plus riposte, right? The pass is completely
Yep.
okay.
I also feel like not being too greedy could be the play here because this attack is really awkward for Kannan if you have 8 mana available.
I don't like Sithria ever coming down here.
Yeah, that is scary if your opponent, again, has obviously the sharp side because he's going to pull your Fiora now. Gets a free trade with the Shen, although he can't really attack with the Shen right now, so...
Yeah, if he attacks with Shen, he just loses it.
Yeah, he would have had to invest sharp side, and those...
I don't mind seeing sharp side here because then it will force Kannan to have 1 if he has it as well.
Yeah, and since you developed your Sifria this turn, next turn you will have enough mana available for the riposte. And again, it forces spell mana out of your opponent, which is less spell mana he can invest next turn once you attack. So for example, he won't be able to play... Oh, he will be able to play 2 riposte. But he won't be able to play a riposte concerted strike next turn. Oh, when he doesn't even have it!
Yeah, Kannan actually throwing out the GG Shen there saying, you know what, I took the risk that I felt like I had to. I went for the value trade. I didn't have it. And now a devastating open attack on the side of Thomas.
It must be done.
Yeah, even if stuff is blocked here, he does have the riposts.
I like this a little bit more, taking the free kill onto the unit. You maybe don't even have to Shen this. You could just throw the Shen elsewhere, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. You probably have lethal with this riposte. Don't quite have deny on backup, but I don't think that Kannan has a whole lot that they can do to get out of this situation. They might be able to survive the turn, but I don't think they're going to swing anything back in their favor this time around.
Yeah, I mean, even have lethal right now. So Kannan obviously is gonna block this Cyphria, which is gonna prevent lethal for now, and then they have to invest a concerted strike. But I think you're fine just taking this. Actually, if they sacrifice their Shen and their 1/2 here, you're fine because you have like the entire board and they have nothing.
Should theoretically be
Balance
game because you can repost. Yeah,
feel like you're fine taking this.
No, you repost Sith 3 and you win, right?
Unless there's a
yeah.
single
Second
combat or
yeah.
concerted.
Yeah, but then I feel like that's okay because you are still ahead on board. They are investing a lot, and you still have the sprite formation on 9.
You repost the 6/3. That gets 6+ attack that can't be dealt with even through a single combat, but not. But you are weak to repost. It's super tough. It's still concerted is a problem.
Yeah, you are able to consider. He actually lets this go through. I also like this. It's fine.
Yeah, just saying, you know what, I'm going to hold this deny up. I don't want you to get maximum value out of this lifesteal on the Shen, which you would be enticed to do if I go for the deny. But, I mean, even this board that Kannan has sort of cobbled together post-combat doesn't feel super impactful into the double riposte that Thomas still has available. And is going to be able to get down a Brightsteel formation on the next turn as well, level up that Shen, and push through an insane amount of lethal attackers.
Yeah, it's
you block just with the 5/2 here and force another. Yeah, I like this. If the trade goes through, you're kind of okay.
The thing is, I think do you want to use your mana? You have mana for repose. You have mana for a deny. Your opponent really has mana only for one concerted strike if he does expand it. Single combat would also be fine for you because your opponent would be losing a unit.
I think Thomas is allowed to be okay with these trades, and Kannan, while he would probably be happy to see nothing come out of his opponent, would just like to get this Sith 3 off the board if possible. You know, I don't hate throwing out the riposte. It's getting us closer to that Shen level up, and actually we are just going to have this live. No mana committed yet on the side of Kannan, and we might as well throw down the River Shaper. We're not really threatening anything on 7 that we're not threatening on 4.
Swim within the
Yeah.
Concerted. Concerted.
Ooh, but there's a rally, and that means that doesn't really matter because
Yeah, it doesn't
anything
feel
that's
like
going
it
to be
does
pulled
much.
here is going to be killed.
Now we 100% but yeah.
This is going to be the final nail in the coffin. On his attack turn on turn 9, pretty good that he attacks on odds. He's going to have the win condition. He probably doesn't even need to play it. He can just swing in for the lethal. Since he has deny, he has barrier.
I think he still plays
Yeah.
Brightsteel, right?
Too easy.
What's the...
Don't think there's any threat from just going in for the open attack, as long as you put the Shen onto the River Shaper so that everything represents a lethal attacker.
Yeah, especially now that you have a concerted strike. You have enough mana for concerted strike and deny.
Everything is going to get really big. I mean, everything's a lethal attacker if you put a Brightsteel formation as well.
I mean,
I don't think
Cythria,
there's
with
really
Cythria,
a wrong
everything's
way
a
to go
lethal attack
around this.
anyway.
But the Brightsteel is ending it in style, and not even a Brightsteel on Kanan's side would prevent this. And oh my god, Thomas, we cast. This was a caster blessing from us, okay? He actually was providing us his viewpoint. Really big shout out, actually, that he was able to hop into Discord and show us his games. And after going down